What is up, guys? It is the Blue Bloods coming with our third week 3 preview of the day. This will be our fourth total, and this will be our last one of the day. We got three more coming tomorrow and three more coming on Friday, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's get right into it, man. We have the first top 15 SEC matchup of the season, and it is going to go a long way in determining both the SEC East and SEC West races this season. And really and truly, the biggest storyline is the first true road test for the Crimson Tide this year, as Bryce Young has taken over that QB1 role. And it is by far the biggest test for this revamped Florida Gators team, which lost a lot of talent after their SEC championship appearance last season. And the storylines for this game, it starts with the Crimson Tide. They're looking for their second top 15 win of the 2021 season. And the funny part is both of which could be over Florida teams if they pull this off, since they beat Miami week 1. And many experts are extremely interested to see what Bryce Young looks like in his first start in one of the most hostile environments in college football, which is the Swamp. It's going to be packed, it's going to be loud, and we have seen it shake so many young quarterbacks in the moment be too big. How will Bryce Young respond to the Swamp this Saturday at 2:30 on CBS? The Gators, on the other hand, are looking to fight and find a way to another SEC championship appearance. They have a lot of new offensive pieces, a lot of new defensive pieces in certain spots. But the biggest storyline is there could potentially be a quarterback battle in Gainesville this weekend. There's some injury question marks on both sides of the ball. So what type of offense and who is going to be able to help the Gators try to pull off one of the biggest upsets of the season this week in Gainesville? And I want to get into the keys for Alabama first. The Crimson Tide, their keys should be pretty easy to identify, but they have to allow Bryce Young to be almost like a Rajon Rondo of their offense, in which he just distributes the ball to the playmakers. All we need are those quote unquote assists, and just let your playmakers go out there and make plays against this Florida secondary, which has a lot of inexperience and a lot of question marks outside of Kaiir Elam at that corner spot. Bryce Young doesn't have to do anything outside of the offense or anything over the top. He just needs to let the playmakers do their job, get them the ball in space, limit turnovers, and let your guys go ball out for you. When you look at his offensive breakdown over the first two games, that's what he's done on short passes, 0 to 9 yards. He's completed 91% of his passes over 230 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he can just get it to his guys, and they can turn those short passes into huge gains and or explosive plays. He's completed 80% of his passes for 135 yards and a touchdown on medium range passes, 10 to 19 yards down the field. Young grades as one of the best quarterbacks at both of these field lengths and passing attempts. He is one of the best in the country. What he can do is he can drop it off to that wide receiving core in short yardage to medium yardage, and those guys are good enough to turn those plays into something bigger. And this Florida defense is going to have to be ready for it, because it could be an absolute backbreaker in terms of momentum for the Gators if they allow Alabama to turn those small plays into chunk plays, which is what killed Miami down the stretch of that week 1 game. The wide receiving core for the Crimson Tide has been reinvigorated, guys. The addition of Jameson Williams has been something to really look out for. He exploded onto the scene, 150 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, and is probably the most explosive option in this Crimson Tide offense. And you can't forget about Mechie and Slade Bolden, both being experienced options in this wide receiving core as well. And it just shows the depth of this unit, because Mechie is capable of taking over an entire game and being that wide receiver 1, even when Jameson Williams doesn't show up. Now, Here's my X factor though. I want y'all to remember this name, and I want y'all to watch him, because he has been one of these guys that have kind of secret, under the radar, kind of shown up in this offense, and that is Jojo Earl. 4-star true freshman out of Texas. And I compared him when we did our recruiting breakdown to Rondale Moore. And he is a matchup nightmare in the slot. And I think he's one of the most promising options at the wide receiver position in terms of how creative Bill O'Brien can getting him the ball. So look out for Jojo Earl this weekend, especially on the underneath stuff, especially on jet sweeps, things like that, because Jojo Earl has the potential to really open up this Bama offense. And all you have to do, the key is to get the ball to Williams, Mechie, Earl, whoever, let them make plays, consistently have and make high percentage throws in this road environment. And then what that will do is it will soften up the defense, and you're going to be able to take the deep shot later in the game, just like we saw against Miami. So the keys are so simple for Alabama. Now, the keys for Florida are a little bit different, but it's clear if you study the way to beat Alabama. One, you have to establish some sort of rushing attack. And two, your quarterback has to be dynamic with his legs and be able to make plays outside the pocket, which puts, I guess, a different type of pressure on Alabama's defense. Now, to be fair, the Gators rushing attack has been one of the best units in the country thus far. They've put up almost 800 rushing yards in 2 games. They're averaging over 8.5 yards per carry as an entire team and have 7 rushing touchdowns in only 2 games of action. The running back room has seen 5 different running backs take multiple carries, and it shows the real depth of this running back room. And these guys are probably going to go up against one of the best defensive fronts we'll see all season. So can they continue that production and consistency that we have seen thus far throughout the 2021 season? Now, Damon Pierce and Malik Davis are probably going to be the top 2 options based on the first 2 games. Pierce has been a red zone threat, 3 rushing touchdowns this season. He just has a knack for finding the end zone. But I want to mention, my X factor, though, to kind of watch is DeMarcus Bowman, 5-star transfer from Clemson. He is probably, in my opinion, the most explosive running back in that positional unit, and he could be the X factor if the Gators can find a way to get him out in space and get him in favorable positions to go out there and make a play. So look out for Bowman. And it's funny, the top two rushers so far for the Gators have been the 2 quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson as the backup and Emory Jones have put on a clinic in terms of rushing and making plays outside the pocket with their legs. Richardson has probably got the most hype of anyone in Gainesville in a long, long time, and he has been the talk of the town. But a hamstring injury late in the game last week could limit him this week. If he's healthy, look out for him to be the Gators' secret weapon. Now, Richardson has rushed for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's averaging 25 yards per carry this season as a backup quarterback. He is a matchup nightmare, and he looks to be every bit of a future star in college football. Now, Emory Jones, 150 and a touchdown, but it's because his ability to make plays with his legs is important, because his passing has been atrocious. 4 interceptions against overmatched teams. And if that happens this weekend against Bama, Alabama is going to absolutely run away with this one. And you cannot have that happen if you're the Florida Gators. So Jones and Richardson have to be dynamic with their legs, because it's going to open up passing lanes and allow them to kind of get into the flow of their game, work their way into the offense, and find some high percentage throws somewhere in this very, very talented Alabama secondary. Now, the matchup to watch for me is easy, because it's strength versus weakness, and it's the same one I picked for Miami, because this Miami offensive line and this Florida O-line have the same problem, in which they don't execute against really good defensive lines. The matchup between the Florida O-line and the Alabama D-line has the potential to determine whether this could be an upset alert game, or Alabama's going to run away with this one. And the Florida O-line has been a work in progress. They struggled against elite D-lines over the past 2 seasons. They've given up almost 50 sacks over the past 2 seasons combined. But so far this year, they've only allowed 1 sack. But the competition level is not what they've seen so far. Alabama's bringing in the strongest D line, the strongest front seven that the Gators might see all season. They're going to have to execute pave rushing lanes to get that run game established while also not putting unnecessary pressure on Emory Jones or Richardson in the pocket, because you cannot allow Alabama to tee off on your quarterbacks and force them into unnecessary turnovers. If you give Alabama the ball in favorable positions and or give them extra possessions, they're putting points on the board. And the secondary and this defense just has a knack for turning those turnovers into 6 points themselves. So you have to try to limit that. If you're Florida's offensive line now, the Alabama D line, absolute problem. We saw it week 1 against Miami. They teed off on De'Aaron King. They have so much talent, but Christopher Allen's injury, which is probably going to keep him out for the rest of the year, is a huge loss. And then Will Anderson got banged up late in the game last week. Now, Anderson, according to Saban today, looks like he's probably going to be ready to go. What percentage he's at, I don't know. But if he's limited and due to, the Allen's injury, look for Drew Sanders and Chris Braswell to kind of step up at those outside linebacker edge spots. And Braswell looks like the real deal out of high school. I really liked him. He was a 5-star kid. He could be a game changer. This could be Sanders and Braswell's moment to really shine and prove themselves in this Saban system. Now, Fedarian Mathis, Byron Young, and DJ Dale are the interior guys, all of which are going to factor into the pass rush and stopping the run. And these guys have combined for 4 sacks in the first 2 games of the season. They're a problem, and Alabama has pass rushers at every single spot on that defensive line. So you cannot sleep on those interior guys getting pressure up the middle. Now, also watch out for Christopher Harris at the linebacker spot. He's a versatile blitz piece for the Saban defense, and he's been shown that he can play a role in any type of pass rush package. He's found a way to get some sacks, and he's found a way to get into the quarterback's face, and he's athletic enough where he's going to be able to make some plays out in space on Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. Now, Florida just has to make sure they keep their quarterbacks as clean as possible. If you keep finding yourself in 3rd and long and 3rd and unmanageable, they're going to pin their ears back, and you're going to have to be ready to fight off arguably one of the best front sevens in the country. That cannot happen for the Florida Gators, while Alabama, they know what to do. They know if they can get pressure on the passer, it's going to force them into bad mistakes. It's going to cause them to go quick 3 and out. And and on the flip side, Bama's going to be able to wear down the Florida defense. And it just all turns into a recipe for disaster. So Florida has to win this matchup battle, or it could get extremely ugly come this Saturday in Gainesville. Now, for my official prediction, I haven't seen many upset predictions. I've seen some close ones. I've seen some major blowouts. I think this one will be close early as Alabama tries to probably ease Bryce Young into this environment. And I think Florida's just going to have that crowd behind them. I think it could be a low-scoring first half. I just think Alabama has too much talent on the offensive side of the ball. I think that defense is too stingy. They're going to force Emory Jones into some mistakes. Richardson not being 100% really hurts the upset bid, and I don't trust that Florida run game against this front seven of Alabama. I think Bama's going to be able to pull away late, even though in the first quarter and halftime it's probably going to be an extremely close game. I have the Crimson Tide winning this game 41-24 over the Florida Gators in Gainesville. But don't sleep on the Gators in the first half. But I just think Alabama has too much depth. So I got the Crimson Tide 41, the Gators 24. So go ahead, stop right here, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment your score predictions below. I want you to comment what you think about this game. What are your thoughts? What are your score predictions? All that below in the comments. Bama's a 14.5-point favorite as we're recording. I'm sure that might shift as we get closer to kickoff. But guys, I appreciate y'all tuning into the Blue Bloods. Hit that subscribe button. But for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.